Hello and welcome to Carnivorous Vibes. My name's Bobby, and this is how I grow orchids and carnivorous plants. Hello and welcome to Carnivorous Vibes. Today's video is a very exciting video for me because we have so much progress going on. It's been a little bit since we've done a really comprehensive update on everything, so today that's what we're going to do. I am going to try to keep this as quick as possible, but there really is a lot of cool stuff to look at. I've got a lot of new plants, I've got a lot of new projects going on, and a lot of new blooms. So we are going to take a look at everything one time, quick through, and hopefully you guys enjoy. So we're going to start out right here in the tent and go from there. And again, there's a lot of really cool new stuff to take a look at. So we're going to jump right in. Here we go. So we are going to start here with our Phalaenopsis bellina. And yes, it opened up its second bud before the first bloom faded. So we have two beautiful bellina blooms for the very first time. I was so excited. I actually had to share a sneak peek of this on Instagram long before you guys will actually see this video. So another reason to go subscribe to my social media channels as well. Check me out, follow me. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I put lots and lots of content on there, and lots of stuff you don't necessarily see here on the channel. So really cool stuff. This is huge, a huge moment. It smells really, really good in here right now. But I'll tell you what, as good as this bellina smells, it has definitely got a very strong rival right now. The Dendrobium parishii that I just got from Andy's, in bloom, mind you, let me not pull it by the cane, is absolutely not only a stunning, beautiful bloom to look at, but this thing smells amazing. It smells just like raspberries. I've always admired, I'm not sure if it's a Nosmum or Nestor, I can't remember which one's which, but Roger's Orchids, he has one and it's beautiful. It's a lot like this flower, and it has apparently a raspberry scent. So I've always admired his from afar, but knew there's no way I could have that orchid in my grow room because of the sheer size of it. But this one has a relatively small stature, so a lot of bang for the buck on this one, and it has these beautiful growths coming. So I need to get it out of this basket pronto and get it onto a mount. That is the next step here very, very soon. Same thing with the Dracula down here. This absolutely new plant, but I have not had the time to take care of this quite yet. Doing well so far still. I've had this in here for a day or two and hasn't dropped off yet, but it's definitely a fadey bloom. But I did notice that there are a couple more spikes in the basket. So what I plan to do is to get it out of here so we don't have any issues, let the new growth in there push on strong and hopefully roots to follow, and then, you know, get it on a mount. So where we may lose this one, hopefully the next one will be even bigger and better and badder. That is just an awesome, huge bloom. So let's see, other big news. The Dracula Gaskeliana is just starting to open. That'll be back with us here in the next couple days. This plant is growing so strong right now. We've got several growths coming. It's put out several already this season. I've got new roots all through this moss here on this mount, which is a great sign, and I think it might put on a heck of a show next season. I'm really hoping it does, at least. I really love this orchid. We'll have more bloom to look at here soon, but for now, that's what it's doing. I think by tomorrow it will be fully open for us to enjoy once again. Pushing in here past the parishii, this big ball of craziness over here is my Epidendrum magnoliae, or Epidendrum conceptum, that I got from Paula and Justin. And this thing right here is just doing awesome. I stuck it on a cork bark mount, bare rooted, and I saw Justin's, and he has Spanish moss on his, and I think it looks absolutely awesome, so I had to follow suit. It just looks really natural, and it makes you feel like you're down in the swamp looking at these orchids with them. So both of you guys, again, thank you so much. And yeah, that's going well so far. Really awesome little blooms on that. It's opened up its second bud, and I'm just really hopeful that this thing grows well for me and I can actually be successful with it. Scanning down a bit, just a quick glance over at some of these carnivorous plants. All these pings down here, Drosera, doing really, really well. The Sarcochilus back here that Daryl sent me are doing really well as well. And I'm just happy as can be. The color on the pings, these ones that I've had for quite some time now, oh geez, is just really, really great. That pink color is absolutely beautiful. And we are, as you see, quickly running out of Phymatochyla blooms. Hardly worth mentioning. They are just getting in everything, falling all over the floor. I think we have like 3 blooms left to look at, so technically it is still in bloom. Very long lived, very neat, but again, lots of other stuff going on. So the Drosera binata, I don't know if you guys can tell this, that was my next thing we were going to look at, but this whole mess of sticky tendrils and tentacles down here belongs to this Drosera binata. And this thing is just going ape. Again, we've got these bifurcated forks out here. So some of them have 3, some of them have 4 fingers. And I just think it's really, really neat. It actually did try to push out a flower that I cut off. So it has strength, and strength it has. So it is really, really growing strong and doing well, I'm happy to say. Another plant that's growing strong, and we haven't actually looked at, I don't think, since I got it, is this. This is my Tolumnia bahamensis, and on that little growth that it had, that when I got it, it has actually pushed out a fan, really nice adult sized fan, a bunch of roots. They're just growing aerial, just waiting to take hold of something. And I'm happy to say, if we zoom back in here a little bit, you will see that it's now put up a secondary growth, lead, whatever you want to call it, with another young fan that is starting to produce roots as well. So growing very strong here in the window. I do need to get it on another mount or sort it out on this one. Fortunately enough, I did get some more cork recently because I had run out. And some of the cork pieces are actually cork tubes, which I've been excited to try out for things just like this. So I'm probably going to put this on a cork tube and just let it kind of take over. Not sure where I'm going to put it. It's not going to be able to hang on the window like that anymore, but I'm sure we'll find a space, and I'm sure that if it keeps growing like this, we will see flowers from this thing in the not too distant future. More awesome news down here to our new Hariella odorata, which we just did a care collab on. If you guys haven't checked out those videos, a couple of us got together and we made a care collab video on the Hariella odorata, or Hariella retrocala, and mine has dropped that bloom, but I'm happy to say it's got another bud pushing out on the spike behind the one that was already formed, and down here my second spike is also forming a bud, so we should have multiple blooms on this thing here in no time. The leaf that's coming on it's coming strong, it's looking really good, and it's continuing to grow down pendulously, which is great. I am very much hoping I can get my plant looking like Yoshi's plant here in the next few years, because his plant is just spectacular. Really, really nice. That's the awesome thing about the care collab videos. Again, you get to see other people all around the world growing the same plant in either similar conditions to you or different conditions to you, and it really helps you work out some of the fine kinks. So really, really excited. Again, I learned from it. I hope you guys did who joined, that if you didn't and you've ever been interested in these plants, which are pretty readily available right now, then I highly suggest again that you check out that care collab. Next to it, big news. What is that, you say? That is one of our new orchids from Tarzane. This is our little Dendrobium rosellum. I've mounted it pendulously on this piece of cork here, and I have utilized for the very first time the synthetic sphagnum moss that was given to me by Joe. So I actually really like the stuff. It's not so ugly. I mean, it may be to some of you guys, but I was expecting it to be such an eyesore. And to be honest, it almost blends in better than the zombie moss. You hardly see it on there. I think if we had all this color, I think it would be pretty neat, honestly. It retains moisture pretty well. This is barely damp, and I watered this 2 days ago, but it doesn't stay really wet, at least not yet. It looks like it's going to be a really, really good potential substitute for zombie moss, which I have been dying to find. Now, I have utilized this on this plant for the cork. We're going to do an experiment with this on cork. We are coming over here to my new Dendrobium hecuense that I got from Hauserman, which I've also dealt with. I finally got it out of the pot, unscathed, may I say. And I have put it onto a piece of tree fern fiber, which we are also experimenting with, if you guys have been keeping up with my little video series on that. So, hard to see right now. I'm trying not to have too much terrible noise, so maybe we'll just pull it out. Good job, Bobby. Much better. So, again, this is the Dendrobium hecuense that we got from Hauserman. It is growing strong, as you can see. Beautiful little plant. I actually bad influenced Michael McCarthy to get one of these, so ha 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 ha. Michael has a thing about miniatures. He really doesn't like small blooms, so I guess not doesn't like's a strong way of putting it, but he doesn't fancy them, I'll say. And he has, I guess, been admiring this, so really, really neat little plant. He just got one, so I guess now the race is on. See who can bloom it first. But again, I did put this on this tree fern fiber pad, which is awesome, and I have used a little bit, like one piece literally, of that synthetic sphagnum moss here at the roots, just because it was in a pot. It did have moss around the roots, and I didn't want to shock them too bad. So until it takes and some of the older roots die off, or if this continues to stay on here and do well, we're just going to see how it goes. But so far it's not staying too moist. As you can see, the roots are nice and happy. I did water this again 2 days ago, but it's not stopping wet by any means. Lots and lots of air to these roots, even though they are green and moist and happy. And I am really hopeful. Really cool experiments going on right now with media. Taking a quick look around the bulbophyllum that Joe sent. That is also on a piece of tree fern here. The Silogeny, actually both of the Silogenies, the Silogeny corymbosa here, as well as the little Silogeny schilleriana down here, are both on tree fern as well. So far so good. And yeah, what else did I do? Oh, and our new Gastrochyllus. That is the last one. Again, we're doing bark, one little piece of that synthetic spag here, just to give it a little bit of added moisture and kind of mimic the environment that it had on its little shingle mount, which I was prompt to take it off of. I hate those things. And so far, absolutely no setback whatsoever. The roots are growing strong, and the plant seems to be very, very happy. I really look forward to seeing these blooms. Really neat little miniature. Speaking of neat little miniatures, yes, I am so lazy. I am so sorry. I've been so busy. My Bloomify plants that came a couple days ago, I still haven't dealt with them yet. They came the same day as the Andes plants, got them unboxed, got a little bit overwhelmed, and they are still doing their thing. This sad little pathetic excuse for Cuthbertsonii here is still alive for now. We'll see how that goes. Michael McCarthy had warned me, I guess, about this, and I totally blew it and forgot. But so far, you know, it's still alive. I have to get it out of here and into the tank, I think, but I do not want to do it on that shingle. On to some of the largest news, most exciting news, at least for me, in this entire tent, starting with this guy right here. This is the famous and lovely, beautiful Dendrobium rotostictum, one of my absolute favorite dendrobiums of all time. I first saw this plant on Rogers Orchids. It's an awesome looking plant with these weird little stems up to the pseudobulb, and I'm sorry, these weird long skinny stems up to the cane portion, bifoliate, you know, really attractive, neat looking little plant, but the blooms on this orchid are just out of this world. I've had it, I got it tiny and rootless from Equigenera. It pushed on, it actually bloomed the first year I had it, which is so strange because it had no roots, no strength. I should not have let it bloom. I should not have let the bloom stay on it for the 5 months that it was on, because I believe I zapped a lot of strength and energy out of this plant. It's grown well for me since. That hasn't been the issue, but it has not bloomed for me since. So we skipped an entire season of blooms on this plant. And I'm not going to lie, this is one of the ones I was kind of counting on blooming again and was really let down by it not blooming. Well, I have exciting news, because not only do we have one here, we have two here. I believe this newest, baddest growth here is pushing on a spike as well. So from having one flower on one cane to having no flowers on no canes to potentially having at least 3 spikes worth of whatever flowers come, I am over the moon. I think that although I missed this plant last year, I really wanted to see these blooms again. I think that, you know, it was definitely worth the wait as of right this second. If this plant wasn't growing so strong, I updated the moss on this plant earlier this year. The roots never dropped off, they never faded one bit, they've just kept extending and growing. It's pushed on new growths, new roots from those growths, and I do believe that this plant, because I mean it is pushing bigger and better growths out than it ever has before, I think it's finally happy, and I think it's finally in stride, as I'd like to say. So hopefully in the not too distant future, maybe a month or so, 2, 3, who knows, but in the not too distant future, we will finally see Dendrobium rotostictum back in full effect, back in action. Now, on to potentially the most exciting news yet this season, at least for me. We've had some really cool first-time blooms. We've had the Arangus punctata, we've had the Angraecum elephantium, we've had the Mormollica rufescens, which is definitely right now my #1 favorite and most special new bloom. We have a plant that I've had since just about the very beginning. This here, this mess of growth and new growths and everything and dangling roots that you can't even see right now, this is Laelia harpophylla. I've had this plant, again, almost since the very beginning, 2.5, almost 3 years, and I have struggled with this plant. I could never even get it to sheath. I've moved it around, I grew it too wet, I grew it too dry, I just totally screwed up every single step of the way with this plant. And I'm happy to say now I'm pushing out these huge growths with these big sheaths. Now, my biggest, baddest sheath kind of dried out, it looks like. I'm not sure. It still looked a little fat in the base. I'm just going to leave it alone and see what happens. But this sheath right here, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but there is absolutely a spike starting to push up inside that sheath. And when I tell you I have not felt joy like that in a while from these orchids, and I've had some really joyful moments in here. I literally shrieked with joy because this is one of my favorite Laelias. I've had this thing again since the very beginning. It has been such a painful learning process with this plant, and I think I finally have something right. So we've moved it up, we're giving it more light, we've backed it off of the window, it's not getting as much direct sun, we've taken the sphagnum moss off of it, we've just done everything that we can possibly do to get it happy, and after almost 3 years, I'm happy to say it might bloom. I'm discussing options of maybe a care collab with this plant with Nina, and I don't know if anybody else grows this, so anybody out there, if you guys grow this plant, please let me know. I'd love to try to get some more people in on it, and I'm not sure exactly when we're going to do it. I'd like to get the spike going, see if I even have a chance for a bloom, but it would be cool to do with this plant in bloom. I think I could really, hopefully then be able to explain quite a bit about the mistakes I've made and then how I've rectified them, and go deeper into that. Anywho, open invite. If you guys are watching this, if you have Laelia harpophylla and you would like to join, please contact me or contact Nina, and we will definitely put something together here. My next new bloom is something, again, that I have had since almost the very beginning. This is my Epidendrum porpax, or Epidendrum nonodes. The first time I ever saw this plant was on Brad's greenhouse, and I just absolutely had to have it. It has such a unique little bloom, and you know, I saw his as a little bush, and I just really thought it had a cool growth habit. Everything about it was really appealing to me. The problem is, I got this plant years ago at this point in time, and if you can't tell by this portion of it, all I have done basically for the last 2.5 years with this one is try to kill it. I've given it too much water, I've given it too much light, I've given it not enough water, I've given it not enough light. You know, just about everything you can do to kill an orchid I have done to this thing. So first and foremost, testament on what a great beginner's orchid this is in a way, because it's certainly tough as nails. Awesome little growth habit. I've finally settled on, again, more or less bare bark. I think there's one piece of zombie moss in there, and that is it. This is a perfect candidate for tree fern. This is going to be one of my next plants going on tree fern for sure. And I can honestly say it's finally starting to kind of take off. It's got a new growth there. It's got another smaller new growth on the side of that. It's finally got one at the base down there. The growths on it here have extended to a awesome size that we have never had before. They look like they're rooting and potentially going to bloom as well. And for the first time ever, we have a bloom on Mr. Porpax. I'm going to sit this down somewhere and get closer in because it's impossible right now. But this is definitely another huge moment in the grow tent. So here we have the Epidendrum Porpax bloom. It's a waxy little thing. Kind of looks like a beetle or something like that. A really cool little bug looking bloom. And again, I just had to have this. If you ever see a specimen sized plant of this that is covered in blooms, you will understand why. So desperately trying to get this thing happy and healthy enough to do that. As you see, we have been through our struggles. This side of the plant is very not happy, and even the the cane right now that's blooming is actually just free swinging. The only thing holding that whole cane or whatever on right now is the roots that have attached it to this mount. Otherwise, the base of it had rotted and it broke off, and I just didn't take it off. So it will get reattached or refastened once I figure out what to do with this thing. But again, for the first time in a very long time, this thing is actually growing happy. Really excited about that. So here's another plant that we don't look at often, and when we do look at this plant, typically I'm cussing it because it is a notorious non-bloomer for me. This is Gomessa verrucosa, and this is the var Felicio Valdino that they sell at Equigenera. Now, this plant I've had for, again, almost 3 years. This is one of my first Oncidium types I ever purchased after seeing Rogers Oncidium verrucosum var Rogersi, which this, I believe, is a synonym for, more or less. This is a very similar plant. It has the yellow and the almost black colored maroon or burgundy with it. I don't have a picture of it because I've never bloomed it again, and I didn't find one that wasn't copyrighted. So anyhow, the most important news that we have is that this plant may no longer be a notorious non-bloomer. We have a spike. It is pushing on nicely. It is fat down there at the base. I do keep having to ward the snails off of it, so help me God. If a snail ruins this for me, I'm going to lose my mind. But for now, we have something really truly awesome to look forward to. Something I have absolutely been dying to see since the very first time I ever saw it on Rogers Orchids. So That is Gomessa Vericosa var Felicio Valdino. And whatever I did the last year or so, I finally got it right with this plant. I've actually reached out to Roger before about culture for this plant. He gave me a few tips. I definitely implemented those and just really kept a close eye on this plant last year and babied the hell out of it, honestly. So it's really doing well. Really looking forward to seeing these blooms. So that is all we're going to look at in the tent today. There is a lot more going on. You're just going to have to trust me. But again, I don't want this video to be too long-winded. I mean, all these Daryl Adams plants up here and new acquisitions and things like that, they're all doing really well. But I do want to make sure we make it over into the tank before we wrap this video up. So we are going to head that way now, and we're going to take a look at a couple really cool things. And one of the first things I'd like to look at is this. This is my new Lepanthes helicocephala from Tarzane, and this is the first Lepanthes I'm giving this synthetic sphagnum moss a shot with. I have had issue after issue after issue in my tank with the zombie moss. It is so moist in here, it is so humid, it just stays moist forever, and we have lots of issues. So this stuff, actually it's dry as a bone right now, so I need to get it watered, but it holds water for about the same time as my zombie moss. I actually gave this whole tank an extra day in between waterings this time just to see. And if you'll look at some of the other moss, this is actually a little, just barely moist, right at the point of where I would rewater. And so is, you know, all the other stuff in here for the most part. I think this is going to be a really good thing as long as for some reason the plants don't object to it. So again, definitely need to get it watered. I think maybe once it breaks in a little bit more or whatever, I will be able to go the same amount of time. But again, I did go an extra day, and I think it's pretty darn close. So I am excited so far. I need to get this watered though. Oof. Anyhow, I'm very hopeful for positive results, and I am really avidly looking for a replacement for zombie moss that I can share with you guys that works better. Anyhow, other big news in here. When it's out, you know we're going to look at it. This is Lepanthes telepogoniflora, in case you guys don't know, and this is, again, my pride and joy. Absolutely love this orchid. It is a very strong growing Lepanthes for me. It's got a burst of light, and it is just really rewarding us. New media this year. This might be going on to the synthetic if it goes really well, but for now there's no chance I'm changing anything with this. I'm just making sure with the other Lepanthes I have that I update the moss on a very regular basis to keep their roots happy. This plant does this all the time. It is always showing off at least once a month or so, and that is why, again, it is my absolute favorite plant in my whole collection. Quickly becoming one of my favorites here is the Dendrobium Cuthbertsonii red. It is finally starting to fade this bloom down here, but it's opened up another one. It's got another bud coming here, and I think it's pushing on another bud from this new growth back there. So very excited to potentially have five blooms on this thing at one time. This little plant here is Lepanthes ortigea. This is one of my newest Lepanthes, and this plant, I am pleased to say, is already pushing on extraordinarily well. The new growth, newest mature growth, is just gigantic. It's got another new growth coming on right here that looks like it's shaping up to be about the same, another one behind that, and I'm pleased to say that it looks like it's going to be an extremely vigorous bloomer. This is a great example here. This leaf, let me try to zoom in. This leaf's a great example. As you can see from that profile, it has got two buds on it, two spikes already, so we're shaping up to have another really vigorous multi-bloom Lepanthes, and that is always something that makes me happy, as you guys know. That's why I'm so excited about the new helicocephala, and I'm eager to push it on and make sure that it grows well and gets back to its crazy blooming self. We have up here my one and only Macroclinium, which is a genus that I really do enjoy quite a bit, but I have kind of struggled with this. I grew it way too moist for way too long. Now I've started growing it bare rooted in here. It loves the humidity. It doesn't need to stay moist. It actually wants to dry out in between waterings. And since I've started doing that, it started growing a heck of a lot stronger, and it's starting to push out its spike again. So we will have Macroclinium blooms here in the not too distant future. This is Dalstromii. Yep, Dalstromii. And it really is quite a neat little miniature orchid. Very Tolumnia-like. Let me see if I can get in. Nope, you're gonna have to take my word for it. Very Tolumnia-like. It's got these fans. They're kind of green with red warty growth on them. It's just a really weird little miniature oddball. So highly recommend them if you can get your hands on them. I know Tarzane has them sometimes. I think I got this from Equigenera. But yeah, really cool little miniature genus. Last, but certainly not least, our Bulbophyllum speciosum is opening up more blooms again. This is the first of about 3. Let me see, am I right about that? Oh gosh, it's got more. This is the first of a few, 3 or 4 coming right now. And I am always eager to see this thing again. Thrilled. Just such a performance from this thing this year. I really am excited to be able to share it with you guys. Lovely little orchid, New Guinea special. If you guys haven't seen many Papua New Guinea bulbophyllums or dendrobiums for that matter, you should definitely check them out. They are well worth it. Awesome little plants, unique blooms, just a land lost in time. Evolution really did some cool stuff there, especially with orchids. So I'm going to go ahead and close out on this bad boy. This is my absolute favorite bulbophyllum in my collection, and yeah, it's a big bad bloom. Really cool. Smells like fish, but beautiful nonetheless. Anyhow, thank you guys as always for watching. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, please stay safe and happy growing.